we're talking about tonight, because it is here. You know, don't be delusioned, it is here. It's pretty scary when you think about it. Okay, Verroa destructor are one of the most serious threats to the honeybee colonies worldwide. It's also serious for our industry. You know, it's a 70, so I think they were saying a couple of years ago when it first arrived in Australia, we had a $70 million honey industry. What they can't work out, what they haven't found out, that is, you know, it's not only affecting the honey industry, it affects the pollination industry. It also affects the agricultural industry, and also things like fruit and veg. You know, you look when Verroa was found in Newcastle, did anybody notice a shortage of blueberries? So now what they're doing now is they're actually growing strawberries right up the coast through winter. Because I know my farm's taking on, sorry, not strawberries, blueberries. They're taking on blueberries this year as well. So yeah, effective management and decontamination of an affected site are critical to the bee health and hive sustainability. Understanding Verroa. Verroas are an external parasite that attaches to the bees and feeds on their body fluids. So mainly their fat stores, so that's where they get their energy from. It can transmit diseases, weaken the colonies, and lead to significant bee loss. Early detection and action is vital to prevent widespread infestation. I think we've sort of gone past that. If we could have eradicated it a couple of years ago, that would have been great, but people have ideas and they weren't good. Okay, signs of an infestation. Looking for the signs such as high level of bee mortality. So that's lots of bees out the front of your hive, they're dead. Lots of bees in the bottom of your box that are dead and the girls can't get them out. Things like that. Increased presence of mites in the brood cells. So if you're doing a hive check and you have a scratch comb, so whack that in your drone brood and uncap some drone brood. If you find it in there, you know you've got it. That's one way of finding them. But, you know, that's a start. At least that's one thing you're doing. You'll hear us all harp on about testing. Please, please, please. You should already be testing your hives. More so now, start testing every month. It's 300 bees. It's not even a day's worth of bees. The girls will go, hey, Queenie, we need 300 more eggs because we've lost 300 girls. So deformed wing virus in adults. We are very lucky here in Australia. It has not been found and it has not been seen in Australia as of yet. But if we're not looking for it, we're not going to find it. A bit like Machiavelli, if anybody can get that. Decontamination steps. Isolate affected colonies. Excuse me. Isolate infested hives, prevent spreads to the rest of your hives. So doing that, you need to set up some barriers. So about 5 years ago, I had American foul brood in one of my hives. We were newbies, we didn't know any different. We used tools on every hive, go from hive to hive to hive. And there was a couple of us that were working together and we'd gone across hives. So what we did then is we set up barrier systems. So we didn't use the same gloves in same apiaries. We made sure the hive tools were clean between apiaries, or we had different hive tools for different apiaries. And so I've sort of carried that on with my hives because I don't allow, if you're in my hive, I don't want your hive tool in my hives. So I have enough hive tools to suffice, you know, 40 or 50 people coming really to a hive and checking them out. So when you are going to a field day, please do not take your hive tool and things like that with you. As mentors and hive people, we will have enough for you to use one of our hive tools. Properly dispose of dead bees and comb. Please do not throw comb on the floor. It's a biosecurity risk. So you're throwing it there, the bees come, you know, and then there's lots of diseases that can be picked up. American foul brood, EFB, which is European foul brood. One's treatable, one's not. Clean the site. depending on what, like I'm on farms where I've got grass, I make sure all my grass is mowed down pretty low. But if you've got say you've got a concrete pad, which is ideal because that stops your hive beetles reproducing. Use a pressure washer if you can, hose it off, remove all the debris that can harbour any mites. So we don't want somewhere for the mites to be sitting and then, because mites can live 7 days out of the hive. Sanitise equipment. So that's where your barrier systems come in. So what you're going to do is disinfect your tools, wash your hive, your suits. I have 5 or 6 suits because I'm in them most weeks, 7 days a week. I'm pretty edging to get into a beehive at the moment because we've had nearly 2 weeks worth of rain. So I get a bit stressed when I don't get into beehives. And so then, if you've got a hive that you have a Verroa mite in and you lose a colony, that's a really big thing. So they're saying in New South Wales and Victoria, one of the biggest things they're finding is the Verroa mite decrease the amount of bees, then the hive beetle come in and absolutely take over and slime out the hives. So that's part of your management, is to keep on top of your hive beetle to be able to keep the hives alive even if you've got Verroa mite. Ensure you're rinsing everything thoroughly. So if you are washing stuff, please do not leave detergent or stuff on. We had a bit of an issue at the Eka this year where we don't know how, but we had a few hives and we don't know whether it was the setup of the hives or whether it was something we'd done, but we had 1 or 2 days there at the Eka that we did not have any bees for display, except for the little observation hives we have in there so that people can come and find the queen. And we actually had biosecurity come in and decontaminate the enclosure that we have, that QBA has. Signs of an infestation.
Sorry, Nikki.
Yes.
When you're decontaminating, what do you use?
Repeat the question.
When you said the peroxide, do you use like water tools or something?
Okay, so what Kaz is asking, what are we using to do decontaminate? So what you're decontaminating is you're looking at everything that you touch. So whether it be hive tools, smokers, queen clips, marking pens, anything basically that you have touched and you're on that site with, and you find it, you've got to go, okay, do I leave all of that at one site and that's this site stuff, and then I'm just going to burn my hive tool and do those sorts of things? There's a few different ways. I generally will wash them and then heat them and burn my hive tools. So I have a blowtorch and I just heat it and then wipe it to get rid of any wax if I haven't, if I'm out in the field and I don't have water, which I generally do have water on the ute, because if I happen to put my smoker down, it's dry, I need water to extinguish a fire. So generally I have like a dishwashing liquid, one of those barrels that my sister had a shop and she gave me a dishwashing liquid bottle, or a water, the 10-litre water pails. Have one of those on hand. You can leave it at site. Doesn't matter if it goes green, because the girls like green water, but you can still use that water no matter what. Because if you need water when you're there. So, things like that. Hydrogen peroxide, I'm not a big fan of hydrogen peroxide as such. It makes your tools fizzle and it's not, and so you do have to wear PPE, like make sure that you don't stick your fingers in the hydrogen peroxide and things like that. Bleach is another one. A lot of people use bleach. I'm not a big fan of using bleach on my tools. So, you can get sanitizers that you can use. Methylated spirits is a really good one, but don't burn them, because it burns a blue flame. You won't see it until it's too late, you burn. So that's why when you're doing your alcohol washes, don't have your smoker sitting right next to where you're actually working on your washing and things like that, because it can catch fire, but you won't see it. That's the thing, because it's a blue flame. Did that answer it, Kaz? So gloves, think about your gloves too. It's a big thing. I don't wear leather gloves anymore. I wear NyQuil. NyQuil, nitrile. So I wear those because I'm in a hive all day and I'm usually pulling honey and they get really sticky. If I do that, I can just go and wash my hands and then I can go on with what I'm doing because I don't have honey embedded in the gloves. So yeah, I think we're going, high levels, so increased presence of mites in brood cells. So if you have a look in that photo there, you can actually see the Verroa mite. So Tanya's explained to us over the time about, you know, one goes in and she then lays an egg and it's the first one she lays is a male and then they reproduce from there and then they've got 3 or 4, 5, 6, depending on how long the cell's closed. You know, the mite load can get quite high. So, you know, we are lucky here in Australia because we don't have a lot of the viruses that the other countries have. So our mite load is a lot higher. So in the US, I think it's 3 mites per 300, and we are, I think, 9 mites in 300 bees. So that's because we don't have the viruses. So we can treat, we're really lucky because we can treat out further. So our mite load can get higher. The form wing virus, yes, so that's not here in Australia as of yet. But if we don't find, if we're not looking for it, we're not, you know, that's, you know, it's a bit like Verroa mite. Sorry. Monitor and treat remaining colonies. So basically, general rule of thumb is if one hive's got it, they're all going to have it. They might not. But as a preventative, you know, you've got to get that mite load up to where they need to be. And, you know, as commercial beekeepers, I work for a commercial and I'm a commercial and, like, you know, you guys are probably a little bit lucky because you've only got 1 or 2 hives, but then you're not lucky in a way because it's a bit more dire straight because we will lose colonies. It's, you know, it's known, like the US, I think they lost heaps of colonies. 60%. Then New Zealand, I think when I saw something when I was looking today, they lost 70% of their hives. So, you know, New South Wales, I don't know the numbers of the losses, but they were massive because at first we were eradicating, but now we're not, we're managing. Thank goodness. Okay, so regular check for mites in healthy colonies, implement integrated pest management strategies, including chemical or non-chemical treatments. It is led to believe that we will need to treat with chemicals, unfortunately. I'm a very big believer. I do not use baits and that in my hives for hive beetle. I use peppermint lollies. It works for me. Or I use diatomaceous earth. I do that in connection with each other. So I'm not a big believer of using chemicals in hives. I'm not a fan of it anymore. You know, but unfortunately, the way it is, until we get over that hurdle of having all of the feral colonies out there and the mite bombs, as we call them, we may have to treat with chemicals and then go, okay, I'm going to take 10% of my colonies and I'm going to go all natural with those. And if they survive, great, you know that works. If they don't survive, you've only lost 10% of your colonies. As a bigger beekeeper, we're lucky enough to be able to do that. You guys, I don't know, it's up to you. You're the one making the decisions on how you treat your bees. We're just trying to give you the education to be able to keep your bees alive so that you can continue being beekeepers. Okay, rest the site. So allow sites to rest for a season before introducing new colonies. So if you do get wiped out, they're asking that you think about leaving that site vacant for a season. That's not always viable because, you know, when I look at it, yes, I can move my hives around the farm, but my hives are there to do a job. Home, you know, you've got hives at home. You can hardly go and say to the neighbour, oh, can you have the beehives at your place because my hive, you know, I'm contaminated. They're going to go, yeah, no, sorry. So, you know, just look at where you've got them and where maybe you could place them elsewhere in your property. Help break the mite life cycle. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. and reduce reinfestation and risk. So that's, you know, doing your treatments, doing your alcohol washes, being on top of it. You know, just it's basically being aware of what you need to do to keep your colonies alive. Preventative measures, sorry, been a long day. Maintain strong, healthy bee colonies through good nutrition and genetics. So last week we talked about genetics and swarming and things like that. So they are currently working on they're breeding at the moment. We're trying to breed Verroa resistant queens. Whether it works, we don't know. No other country's done it, but let's hope we're the first one that can get that done. We have a couple of queen breeders, very well-known queen breeders, and the one I have bought queens off for a while now, and I like her stock. She's actually been doing Verroa resistant breeding. So, you know, hopefully it's working. We'll see. Rotate apiary locations and reduce the localization of infestations. So it's basically moving stuff around, you know, from site to site. It's a bit like, you know, going out to one property and moving to another property and moving. So, but in saying that, if you have Verroa, please do not move them. Please do not move them, because we can see the disaster that's currently unfolding in the Lockyer Valley. We were 11 hives, 11 properties. We're now up higher than that, and they're moving up. You know, I tested my hives at Stanthorpe when I was out there last week or the week before. I think it was last week when it was nice and sunny, a bit cold out there. We actually found no Verroa in our hives in Stanthorpe. Now, we're only about 3 kilometres from the border, so that's within flying distance of the border. So we're at the back of the Stanthorpe Airport. So we wave to the planes as they go over and keep coming back. So yes, it's we're on the runway site, so because that's where we can have our bees, because they can't put fruit there. Regularly monitor and check mite levels using sticky boards and alcohol washers. Everybody knows what this is, don't they? Put your hand up if you don't have one. Yay, everybody's got one. Please use it. Please, please, please use it. You know, people go, oh, you know, I don't want to do alcohol washes. I want to do sugar shakes. Bees are going to die anyhow. Sorry to tell you that. They have proven that sugar shakes, not all of the mites come off, and so the load count is not correct. Alcohol wash, you're only doing 300 bees, so half a cup, roughly. The girls know 300 are missing. She'll lay 300 more. It's not even a day, in winter time, it's not even a day's eggs that we are killing. Yes, we have to kill them, but I would rather kill 300 bees and know I don't have any mites than not test and lose the entire hive. For me, that's my income. If I don't have hives on the ground, I don't have an income. Okay, community engagement. Share your experiences and solutions with local beekeeping clubs. We are a local beekeeping club. If you know, when we do end up having, not if, when, talk about it. We're going to share. We're going to go, okay, don't be afraid if you're the first one. I know people are scared to be the first one. You're not the first one anymore. It happened in the Lockyer Valley. Collaborate and monitoring efforts and treatments to enhance the community resilience against Verroa. We need to start educating our customers that buy our honey. We also need to educate our farmers that we work on their farms, because they think that they're going to get all this free pollination for years to come. They've got 2 to 3 years, and they're going to be paying for every single hive on the ground. So that's where we're not going to have enough hives as commercial beekeepers, and that's where hobbyists can band together and earn a little bit extra. Charge for pollination. Please charge for pollination, because you do have to have public liability. Okay, conclusion. Decontaminating a beekeeping site effectively by Verroa mites is essential to protect bee populations. Proactive measures can magnify future mitigate future infestations and promote a healthier environment for bees. So it is very important that we are on top of our washes, and if we do get it, we need to treat. You know, it's really important because, you know, 1 in every 3 mouthfuls of food is touched by a beekeeper or a bee. So I know I had potatoes today. I don't know, I don't think potatoes is one of the ones. It's 37 different crops. So raspberries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, mulberries are all one crop when they say 37 different crops. Does everybody know that you actually need bees for carrots? Yeah. Because down in Victoria and Tasmania, they have Pacific farms at certain times that they actually let the carrot top go to seed, and the bees need to pollinate it to be able to get carrot seeds for growing carrots. That shocked me the most. That was one of the ones I didn't expect. So I've learned. Okay, so your homework from here, food for thought. Test your hive. We keep banging on about testing your hive. Well, hopefully we didn't break that one. Report to B123 positive or negative results. It's very important that we report because if we don't report, they don't know. Even if it's negative, we need to report. You know, the government we're trying to lobby the government to keep our Verroa detection officers on board. We need to do that by, you know, making it so that we're doing the work we're supposed to be doing. You know, I won't say the other programs that are around that we keep seeing. If we don't do that, we're going to lose our officers. We won't have them there to help us out. We won't have them there to teach us new stuff when it's coming in. Know and make a treatment plan. Trust me, if you do not have a general idea of what you are going to do by now, it's here in Queensland. If you do not know what you're going to do by now, you better start doing your homework. Find your local treatment supplier. I would say any of the beekeeping supply shops that are the bigger ones will be a supplier. I don't know of too many other suppliers for the chemicals that we are. So, but also go and research what chemicals there are out there. You know, there's some natural ones which may not suit your need, but you need to make sure that you're not treating with the same thing every time. You're going to have to swap and change. You know, there's a few things that you're going to have to do. Some of them you can have honey, you can treat with the honey supers on. Some you can't, which is going to make it really hard for us in Queensland because we have honey supers on generally 12 months of the year. So I'm going to have hives where they're painted one colour and the tops of the frames are painted that colour, and they are going to be my Verroa treating frames. So when I pull them out, I'm going to destroy, like I basically get rid of all the comb out there. So, you know, this is something we have to look at, is how we're going to dispose of any of the comb. Because once we have the treatment go through the hive, you cannot use those frames for honey production. Okay, because the wax is contaminated. So you've got to think about these things. You know, it's going to cost us money to start with. You know, your treatments are not cheap. They're, I think, between $11 and $15 a treatment. I have 300 hives. I know the guy I work for, he's treating in New South Wales at the moment because he found them recently, and it cost him a couple of grand for treatments. And that's 1 month. As a hobbyist, you're not going to want to go and go, oh, I'm going to go and stock up on them stuff. Please don't stock up on it because it has a short shelf life. And once it's past that shelf life, I wouldn't suggest you use it. Okay, work with your local beekeepers to treat when they are treating, once you meet the mite threshold. Does everybody understand that?
Those who haven't been to that education day, this will
So yeah, once you've been to the education day, you'll understand what we're talking about. So say we've got the Launton people, Strathpine people. Let's all treat at the same time, because Flo's going to treat her hive, then Tommy's going to treat his hive in 3 or 4 weeks' time. Mary Jo's going to treat her hive, and so we're just reinfesting each other because we're not all treating at the same time. So let's work as a collaborative. Let's get together and say, hey, Launton and Strathpine, we're going to treat this time. Or we're going, like I've reached my mite load. If you, with that mite load, let's treat together. So that's a general idea of treating as a collaborative. So then we're knocking the mite on its head. Yes, Bernie. Okay, Bernie said, what are we doing with any of the comb and that we pull from the hives? So anything in the brood box from now on, once you start treating, cannot be used for anything because of the mite load. So in the European countries, they've increased the amount of miticides in the wax, and that's why now we're only getting $9 a kilo for our wax in Australia. That's generally what Capilano is paying for it. So because there's no call for us as Australians they don't have the call that, because they've increased the miticides that can be in the wax. So that's for skincare and creams and things like that, lipsticks. So, you know, we've been a privileged market here in Australia until now, because we actually could sell our, I think it was something like $21 a kilo Capilano were paying for comb at wax at before Verroa hit. So now they've started to increase the miticides. So at this current moment, you have to destroy it. I don't know, we will get back to you on the best way of doing that, because at the moment we're not treating. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So everybody will be different. So, you know, the more hives you have, the more radical you'll be. Like there's different treatments. There's heat treatments, and there's chemical treatments, and then there's natural treatments. So you have to look at what's your plan. So my plan is my plan. I know what I'm going to do. Okay, yes, I can share with people. I don't have a problem with that. But that's not going to work for you guys, because you only have 3 hives. I have 300. So you can see where I'm coming from. We all have to know our own plan, because our circumstances are different. Okay, so, and unfortunately, it says rinse and repeat. We might be doing that monthly. We're going to be testing monthly, because they're saying, you know, once every 16 weeks, you can lose a hive in under 16 weeks. If you test every 16 weeks, we can physically lose a hive. Like I might be able to survive that, but not many people that have 1 or 2 hives, you will not survive if you're not treating and not looking at your hives and not testing, because that one hive can be gone in under 16 weeks. So that's where, you know, your hive beetle comes in and slimes out. Who's had a slime out? That's pretty awful. You know, if you've only got 1 hive, it's really hard to be able to come back from that. You're then buying a new colony. And that creates another problem, because you then have to find a trusted seller. Okay? So that's where then you're going to have to start thinking about, I want to know how many mites are in this before I get it. Recently, this year, I did a load of 52 nucleus colonies that went to New South Wales, because he wanted to get ahead of the mite load. He wanted to get bees from Queensland so that he could get ahead of his mite load. So he didn't have to check those hives for 4 weeks, you know, knowing that they were mite free. Okay, so we have Q&A. Now, I'm going to ask Tonya to come up, because she's had Verroa mite and she's worked Verroa mite before. Okay, so what specific signs of Verroa mite infestation have you encountered in your hives in previous times?
Okay, what specific signs of Verroa infestation have I encountered in my hives? Absconding,
So yeah, if the Verroa is too much, they'll abscond. So if you randomly start to see queen cells in your hives for no reason, could be a Verroa mite infestation. It's their natural thing. Parasitic mite syndrome, which if you see that, then it's too far gone. Good luck getting your hive back from that. I'm going to rattle these things off, but if you haven't actively gone out to learn about Verroa yet, you might not know what I'm talking about. So now is the right time to go and check these things out. What else have I seen? I've got deformed wing virus in New Zealand. So deformed wing virus, a whole bunch of viruses, weak hives. We don't have small hive beetles, so I haven't seen the slime out. But
So slime out's charming, isn't it?
yeah.
Really, really charming. Don't do it. Don't fix a slime out without a mask on, please. You can end up with a yeast infection in your lungs and it can kill you. So make sure you wear a mask. If you've not dealt with a slime out before, talk to your mentor. Sometimes they might be able to help you out. I know I've dealt with them sometimes the honey can slime out. So yeah, it sits too long before it's extracted. Okay, how can we improve community efforts to share knowledge and resources for Verroa mite management?
Me?
Yes.
The first things first is come to your bee meetings, get to know other beekeepers, get to know the beekeepers around your neighbourhood, because that's going to really help you in terms of infestation. Help each other. If you've got 1 or 2 hives, talk to your neighbour and purchase the treatments together. Just try to come together as a community and talk to each other about what's working for one beekeeper and what's working for the other. I guess for me it's hard. I'm a commercial from New Zealand and we have land war, so the commercials don't really talk. There's only a few that do, and those few are good beekeepers. The rest aren't. So
we're finding here in Queensland, some of the commercials will talk to each other, some won't. So we're finding can be hard. So yeah, does anybody thank you for your attention and on this thing, on this Kaz, do you have a question?
yeah, well, a little bit further than 150 metres, bees can fly up to 7 k's if they need to. And if you've got a hive that's slimed out or getting slimed out and needs to be robbed because, it's not being protected, then 7 k's you can get infested. So I actually recently found out today that the reinfestation rate in New South Wales is crazy numbers, almost too high to believe, and that's about 300 to 400 mites getting into these hives each day. So that's what we're up against.
That's from the mite bombs and things, is it? Or
Yep, that's from the ferals, from the unmanaged hives. Yeah.
So we do have a little bit of we've got a little bit to go. It is going to be a struggle for the first couple of years, from what we understand. So please don't give up. Talk to your other beekeepers, work with your community your beekeeping community. Any other questions?
It's called a...
Question is, do the mites have any natural enemies?
It's called a pseudoscorpion, and they live in the hives. I've actually seen some in New South Wales. They live in the hives with the bees. The bees they're not worried, and they'll go and eat the mites.
Is that a little black centipede looking thing?
Yeah.
I think we call them earwigs here in Queensland.
Oh, no, not them. They're different.
Oh, okay,
They're actually
different.
tiny little scorpions in the hive. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Cool.
The problem there, though, is they haven't been able to breed them up enough in a hive to combat Verroa mite naturally, to keep numbers down. Really good idea.
And that's what we're talking about, educating. So we as beekeepers need to educate. We educate them on honey. When we sell them honey, we educate them, the crystallised honey. Don't always decrystallise everything, because when you sell them a crystallised honey, to say, I'll pop it in some hot water, Don't put it in the microwave, but pop it in some hot water, because that's good quality honey. That's what you're going to get. So it's a bit like that. We have to educate not only the public, but we also have to educate government. And because it's a new thing for us here in Australia, you know, we've only had it for 2 and a bit years, 3 years maybe. You know, like all the other countries have had it for a lot longer, and they would have went through the same teething problems we're going through now. So the question was, because we've got 2 mics, sorry, I'll just explain that. Was there an electronic device that is connected to the hive that will actually kill just the Verroa mite? I think it's called Purple Hive. I think that was part of the Purple Hive project. Okay, so Chris was just asking how many have tested, and we've had a show of hands, and how many have reported. We have a pretty good thing, but if you need help testing your hive, your mentor is only a phone call away. Yes, okay, the weather's not great at the moment, but it's probably now, it's really important now that we actually do test now, because I'm going to hand over to Tonya, and she's going to update us on what's going on all Verroa in Queensland.
Yeah, so those that are new, I apologise because it's a bit overwhelming, and I would definitely recommend to go to this Verroa workshop, because it's the only way you're going to keep your hives alive at this stage. And I don't mean to scare you, but it is actually our new reality. So sorry about that. So I'm here tonight just for support and to update you on what's happening with Verroa in Queensland. So my name's Tonya Johnson. I am a Verroa Development Officer, free support with the government and the national program. National Verroa Mite Management Program. So along with your mentors, I'll be available as well for any more complex questions or whatever you need. So yeah, the day after our last meeting here, we had a beekeeper ring up and say, I think I have Verroa in my hives. And one of our Verroa development officers went and saw the beekeeper, and sure enough, it was Verroa. It's been confirmed by the lab, and it's been confirmed that it is from New South Wales. Now this wash, he was doing it 16 weekly, which at least he was testing. Definitely do it monthly. But this wash returned a level past threshold. And our threshold at the time was 9. It's gone back down to 5, but it was about 5 times past that threshold. So it's been there for a while. It's been there since we're thinking about Christmas. And for those of you that thought that it was just going to be at the border, yeah, no. And so that myth's been busted. And for those of you that think that it's just going to be in Lockyer, that myth will be busted too, because it's been there since December. We don't know exactly where it is, because, you know, whoever bought it there could be gone, or it could be still there and we might be safe for the next little bit. We don't know unless beekeepers are testing and reporting to B123. So B123 is a survey to say whether, ask the beekeeper whether or not you have Verroa in your hive, in your wash. And that data gets generated to our surveillance map. If you haven't seen our surveillance map, go on Queensland, Business Queensland and Verroa, just Google that. It's now turned into a heat map, and you can track the spread of Verroa. So that's exactly what B123 is for, is to track the spread of Verroa. So you won't be able to track it if no one's uploading to B123. It's totally optional, but do it for your neighbour. I definitely know that I'll be doing it if I ever get hives, just to be a good neighbour. And that's where Nikki's PowerPoint presentation come together as a community and try and battle the mite together. You can do it. There are going to be losses, but first step of IPM is knowledge. So if you're getting your knowledge in, then hopefully you can take the next steps to save your hives. So. Yeah, as I said, I'm available for anyone that needs it. Same with your mentors, just come and see me. Yeah, so when you do the wash, that's the 300, and your threshold is 5 mites. So yeah, it was. No, so
But report it.
the whole thing about a threshold is a number in your wash before it starts to impact, or when it starts to impact your hive. So at the moment, because Nikki said, you know, we don't have these viruses, we have great volunteers that have been sending samples into us for labs, and it's been confirmed at the moment that there is no viruses. But so we're able to see, we're able to have a higher threshold because we don't have these viruses. So, yeah.
So so with your wash, so just invest in one of those little, you know, go to the dollar shop or $2 shop and get yourself a measuring cup set. Get rid of all of the others and just keep your half cup one in with your Verroa kit, with your methylated spirits or your soapy water. Methylated spirits kills the bees the fastest. It's the less cruel for thing because they are dead once they hit the thing. Now, I don't know, when I do a couple of hundred, well, we do ours in blocks. We have 4 or 5 of these and we go and do 4 and 5 hives, then we finish them up, lock them all back up, put everything back how it is. These are sitting on the back of the utes, and we'll either put them, they're sitting there waiting to be filled with bees, then we put them on top of the hives. So we know that hive's been tested. So then I write on the top of my hive VT, so Verroa tested, and so I know that that's been tested for Verroa. So don't throw your methylated spirits away. Pop it through one of these filters. These, I got them from Dazo. I think they're about $3 or $4 for a pack of 90. The white ones are the better ones. You can get the brown ones, but it's, you know, it's better to have the white ones because you can actually see the mites. Like I freaked the other day when I was out at Stanthorpe and I was washing and I'm going, because you're looking at the bottom and it's like, is that a mite? No, that's pollen. You go, oh God, I don't want to be ringing by security because I can't move my hives. I've made the decision that I will not move my hives from Stanthorpe to Caboolture where they belong. So they go out, work, they go for a holiday out in Stanthorpe, they come back and work from Caboolture. We will not be moving hives. If we find Verroa mite in our hives, we will not be moving them back from Stanthorpe. That's a decision we've made. We will eradicate them or find somebody that we can land them out in that area. That's a discussion I'll have with the commercial beekeeper I work with, if he knows of anybody that can land hives for me. So it is, I'm not protecting myself from that, I'm protecting other beekeepers. That's my choice. So, so basically filter your alcohol through, reuse it. You know, even if you have like a couple of years and help each other out. Go and do your, you know, your washes together. So like 3 or 4 people get together, you know, even if you put it out on Facebook, you know, who wants to test their hives in this area, and we all just hop in the car and drive around and help each other out. Because it doesn't take long to do, but it's tedious. Because you do have to swirl them and, you know, I work with another guy, him and I do it, and if my husband's there with us, we are churning them through because we have hives we have to test. So, you know, when you've got a couple of hundred hives that you're testing, you need to get through them. And it's monthly, we're doing it monthly. It's you know, it can get tiresome. Any other questions? Yes, sorry, down the back.
That's all right. The threshold you're talking about, that threshold you're talking about, let's say you've tested and you only find 3, you go, okay, I don't have to treat it, but then how long will it be before you do actually have to treat it? Because if you just go, oh, I'm okay, they're just going to multiply exponentially. So wouldn't you be better off even if you found 1 to treat?
Okay, so the question was, if we found 3 mites in a wash, why wouldn't we treat then? There's a thing called resistance, and for example, we've had Verroa mite in New Zealand since 2000, and so the last maybe 5 years, there's 2 treatments that you've got available here: AP-STAN and Beverol. Sorry, we can't use them in New Zealand. So that's because beekeepers were either leaving the strips in too long, they were either prophylactically treating. If you don't know what prophylactically treating is, it means treating when there's no reason to. Yeah. And so there's a threshold for a reason. But to answer your question, say that you've got three mites in your wash, and you know you're going away on holiday for a month or 2, that I would treat and save your bees. But if you're going to be around the house home for another 2 or 3 weeks, you've got that time to go back into there and see whether you've reached threshold or not. So it's really hard to.
So what you're saying is if you find 1 or 2, then you start to monitor that one more intensively.
Definitely, yeah. It's really, really hard at the moment in this reinfestation phase to give you an exact answer to the first part of that question, because I just don't know. And as I said, we don't know, sorry. And as I said, you know, in New South Wales, there's about 300 or 400 that are entering a hive a day. It's not every hive, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to scare you out of beekeeping, but it's our reality. And it comes in waves. So just frequently monitor. If you've got 3 in a hive, don't wait another month. Try and get in a little bit earlier. Maximum, let it be a month, but you'll have passed the threshold in your washes.
What you're saying is like, don't only use antibiotics.
Yep. Yeah. Don't overuse the treatments, exactly. Yeah, because we'll create resistance then. And Nikki did touch on it a little bit earlier. In the States this year alone, they've lost from 80% to 100% of their hives. In New Zealand, we've got about 30% overwinter loss from possibly Verroa and queen issues, and the weather is pretty horrible there. In New South Wales, I did get word today that they are losing about 70% of their hives. Our VDOs are saying that's not a definite number, but that's what our VDOs are seeing down there, who they're talking to. But that's not every beekeeper. Those are infected areas, yeah. Yeah, and if you haven't seen the New South Wales heat map, it's actually it's spread everywhere. It's spread up now. So it's spreading up to our border, and it's actually spreading west. So that's 2.5, nearly 3 years, and it's really spreading, but it's because of beekeepers too, right? So same thing happened in Lockyer Valley.
So while we can't use a chemical treatment when we get 3 mites in, that's when we do something like pull out all the drones and kill all the drone cells that might have extra mites sitting away ready to hatch out at that time. So some sort of physical or mechanical control that we can do to reduce that load to help it stretch out a bit longer before it gets to threshold level. Is that right?
Totally. So Kaz is definitely right there. Say you have 3 in a hive in your wash. There are mechanical tools. So for those of you that have been to a Verroa workshop or are going to go to a Verroa workshop, you will learn about this, and it's all part of an IPM plan. First step is knowledge, second is cultural, and cultural is the beekeeper. So keeping your hive strong, having good practices, also the Verroa sensitive hygiene, so genetics. The next one up is mechanical. So you've got your knowledge, you've got your good beekeeping skills. The next is your mechanical. So these are tools that will help you suppress mite numbers before really reaching that chemical treatment. And then if the numbers of mites are too overwhelming, you will have to start thinking about chemical treatments, whether it be synthetic or non-synthetic, but you will have to think about a type of treatment to knock those Verroa mite down. So, did that.
So there is a green frame. I know, I think it's Ecotech that have a green frame. That is a drone frame. There are drone frames. I think some of the beekeeping supply companies are already supplying them. They are a plastic frame. You make sure you wax them so that the girls will build them out nicely. So my suggestion is you get 2 per hive that you have. So you let them build it out, you pull that frame out before the drones, so through mid-cycle before they hatch. So it is a time thing. I think it's about 20
days
maximum days. You pull that frame out, you stick it in your, bag it up, put it in your freezer. Okay. Pop your next frame in. The one you put in the freezer 3 or 4 days later, you go and take it out, decap it, get rid of all your mites into something so that not onto the ground. Okay, they're frozen, they're dead, but we don't want that biosecurity matter ending up everywhere. Tap out your frames, clean them up so that it's ready for the next 20 days. So you can actually have drone frames in at all times so that you actually are because Verroa mite do prefer drone frames, drone cells, because they're a lot bigger. So if we're encouraging the queen to lay drones, then we can encourage the Verroa mite into there, and then there's less, so that's another form of Verroa mite, but it is time sensitive. You do not leave it more than 20 days, because because if you allow those drones to hatch, you've just allowed how many more Verroa mite? I think 6 per cell. So 6 times how many cells? There's about 3,000 cells to a frame. 6 times 3,000. Can you see where I'm coming from? So make sure if you're doing your drone frames or you have drone comb, get rid of that drone cone, get it frozen. Even if you cut it out, put it into bags, freeze it. Because that allows you to know that you're actually getting rid of those mites. So, it's one way, it's something that we're just going to have to learn to do. Unfortunately, it's part of beekeeping now. It's part of our beekeeping journey and our beekeeping life.